Telling me we're going live, and now we are live. All right. Well, welcome everybody. We're here for our first Zero Waste Champion Chat, and our topic tonight is Beyond Plastic Free July. Why Beyond Plastic Free July when it's still Plastic Free July? Well, we're going to get into that and cover that shortly. I'm going to start tonight by acknowledging the Wurundjeri as the traditional custodians and true sovereigns of this land, which we live on and which we're meeting on today. We're in different places throughout, and I guess our panellists will tell us in a moment where they're from. But I'd like to pay respects to elders from all nations, and their elders are past, present, and emerging. I'd also like to know people who are watching where you're from. If you'd like to just pop into the comments where you're watching from, let us know if you're in Melbourne or Victoria or somewhere further abroad. For those who don't know me, and you may not know me, my name's Kirsty. I'm Kirsty Bishop-Fox. I'm an environmentalist, and part of what I do is to create awareness on sustainability issues, particularly waste and also energy and just sustainable living, and give people the tools or know-how to empower them to live more sustainably. I'm the president of Zero Waste Victoria, and I thought it'd be a good idea to have some online sessions with everyday people who through their own individual inspirations have become zero waste champions. So we're here tonight to put the spotlight on people and organisations who are doing great things in waste. And for those of you who might know of Zero Waste Victoria, but who aren't super familiar with what we do, we're a community group, a passionate bunch of volunteers, and our mission is to empower Victorians, although sometimes we go worldwide, but mainly Victorians, to downsize their waste through everyday choices while advocating for meaningful change. We shift mindsets, facilitate action, and spotlight solutions to reduce waste. Our impact is to amplify the community voice and connect people, inspiring and enabling them to reach their zero waste goals. Now, I'm joined tonight by Rebecca Prince-Ruiz, who is the founder of Plastic Free July, which is a global free movement that helps millions of people be part of the solution to plastic pollution. 10 years ago, Rebecca became concerned by the amount of plastic going into landfill and encouraged her family to go plastic free for the month of July. Now, her idea is now a global initiative with an estimated 140 million people participating worldwide. Rebecca believes it's critical to stop the waste problem at the source and believes we all need to take responsibility to change our throwaway culture. I totally believe that too. You say a quick hello, Rebecca. I'll introduce everyone and then we'll hand it over to you for a chat.
Hello, thanks very much for having me.
I'm so glad you're here. I've probably followed you longer than you've known me, so I'm really stoked to have you here with us tonight. Next up, we've got Bianca Cottle. Bianca's a passionate advocate for zero waste and sustainable building practices. Now, she's built a 10-star eco-prototype home with her husband, and she was running educational tours about plastic pollution at Replas. Now, Bianca used her science, education and contracts backgrounds to found the BYO Containers campaign in 2018. Now, this campaign has merged with Trashless Takeaway to help consumers and businesses reduce plastic waste. Alongside the campaign, Bianca works in the environmental certificate industry, and in her spare time, she has a little bit, I'm told. She enjoys zero waste cooking and much more, but cooking with her 8-year-old. So thanks for joining us tonight, Bianca.
Hi, everyone. Great to be here.
I'm just going to switch this around because it's a little bit too much of me. We've also got Maddie Taylor here. Maddie is the Biodiversity Engagement Officer at the University of Melbourne. Her role mainly focused on biodiversity engagement, but she's been lucky enough to work on the university's Choose to Reuse a Plate program, which is aimed at reducing waste at the campuses. She also loves working on the project, as waste is something that impacts everyone, including biodiversity. Thanks for joining us tonight.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay. Just going to move that comment there. I'm going to hand it over to Rebecca now. I'd really like to know a little bit more about Plastic Free July. I know what Plastic Free July represents, and we're not here tonight to talk about, I guess, how to reduce your plastic. But if you've got any questions, please feel free to pop them in the chat. But we'd like to know how Plastic Free July started, because it didn't really start as a worldwide idea. It started as your own idea. But if you can just share that with us, it would be great.
Yeah, look, thanks very much, Kirsty. It's just such a a pleasure and an honour to talk about this story. Would just like to acknowledge I'm on Menang Noongar Budja in the southwest of Western Australia, and pay my respects to their elders past, present and emerging, and to acknowledge the continuing custodianship of this land. And for me, one of the things that Plastic Free July has really, I guess, made me think more deeply about is the choices that I make, and that goes beyond plastic, and what I'm prepared and what I'm okay about leaving behind, which is actually we say leaving behind, but it's actually leaving forward, because as we all now know, these plastics that we've been using last forever. And so for me, looking at my plastics and the waste I create has really become for me part of bigger questioning about my responsibility and the choices that I make. So really looking forward to sharing I guess a little bit of that journey, and to your point about kind of moving beyond those just those small changes that we can start to make in our daily lives, but actually share with you a bit more the story of Plastic Free July, which is the story, I think, at its heart about grassroots change and how small changes in our daily lives can add up. Look, I've got to say, when I first had this crazy idea to try and avoid not all plastics but single-use plastics for the following month, which just happened to be July, back in June 2011, I had no idea and no expectations that it would become a global movement. It was quite an impulsive, spontaneous decision that I made after visiting, living in Perth, in working in local government in waste and sustainability education, and we went to a recycling facility. Well, it was actually a material recovery facility where the contents of my household yellow lidded bin, the commingled recycling bin, when it was collected each fortnight. And there were two things that really surprised me that day. And whilst I'll just start out by saying recycling is really important. We all should be recycling. We should be following our council guides. We shouldn't just be recycling. We should be, when we do need to purchase something, choosing items made from recycled content. But it really confronted me, just the volume of the waste that we were producing, seeing my waste with my neighbours and everyone in my street and my suburb, and then the complex energy intensive process to deal with it. Now, look, there's a lot of myths out there around recycling, but I suddenly realised in the moment, the more I could actually do to reduce, the more of a difference that I could make, the more of an impact. It was a better thing to do. And actually, at the end of the day, that's what good custodianship is about actually more living within our means. So there were about 40 people who decided they would give it a go. I'm quite embarrassed to actually admit I didn't ask my family if they wanted to do it. I just we're doing this. I did invite my colleagues.
Rebecca, yeah, 40 people the first time you did it.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I think that's quite a lot. To rally 40 people in for something which is a bit unknown.
Yeah. Well, we'd had, look, I wasn't the first person to say, right, I'm going to do this challenge. I'm going to try and live without plastic for a month. I'd heard of people doing eco challenges before, but we had a really strong volunteer network at the council. So it was actually an invitation to those volunteers. So, and it was a lot harder than I thought. So much harder than I thought, because I suddenly realized, oh my gosh, plastic is everywhere. But what we learned, some really important lessons, that was doing it together was important because we could support each other. Remember that first time when I'm quite shy and I was got up the courage to say at a cafe, oh, no straw with my drink. And then I got 2 plastic straws for my troubles. And then,
I've been there.
Oh, That was devastating. But to be able to have that conversation with other people, what did you do? And this is, back in 2011, no one was talking about plastic pollution or our waste. We didn't know that we're only recycling 9% of our plastics worldwide. So it was very early days. So I think having other people to support you, to have those conversations, as well as sharing ideas and sharing solutions, is really what made it grow. And it's interesting now, we work very closely with a behavioural economist and we're very careful around our messaging. Whereas the challenge grew online through social media from 40 people in the first year to 400 and 4,000, and then we kind of lost count, through word of mouth, through people making changes in their own lives and feeling good at the end of the month about having less waste in their bin, making a difference. And then it grew as a ripple effect of people sharing it with their family, with their friends, with their colleagues at work, doing something at their kids' school. I remember when I first met online Erin Rhodes, and I'm like, oh my God, somebody in Melbourne is doing plastic-free July, and I'm not perfect, but I learned a lot from Erin and a number of other people now that have been blogging and sharing their knowledge, and they're way better than me. We've kind of reduced our waste by 60 or 70% in my home, but there's been this real generosity of knowledge and sharing. And I think if I could just share one picture about how I've seen change happen in the last decade, it really has been, it starts small and it starts with the individual. And it's not, I remember talking to Colin Ashton-Graham, our behavioural scientist, and I said to him, we were at a talk and someone had been given $1 million for a campaign educating people how to sort their waste. And I was like, oh man, Colin, what we could have done with $1 million. And he said, Rebecca, I guarantee if you started with $1 million, you would never have the change and created this global movement. And he said that's because we didn't set out to start educating people or telling people what to do. It was like, we want to do something different here, and it's hard. And we don't have all the ideas, but we're going to do it together. And then as we learn, we're going to share more ideas. And it's been very real. It's been very authentic. As my teenage daughter at the time said, looking at our social media profile, it's been blurry, the old iPhone 3 taking a photo of the bin lined with newspaper. Like it's been real. It's not been perfect, but it's been about giving it a go. And it's been amazing. Now we'll get corporates and big brands that are making changes to their packaging, or we're working with Brookfield Properties at the moment, and in the last year they've removed 1.75 million pieces of single-use plastic in their assets across Australia. We've talked to airlines that have taken plastic-free July and taken action there. And when you talk to all of these organisations, it started with a person, doing the plastic-free July challenge. They've brought it into their workplace. They've done it as an employee engagement campaign. At the same time, it's their number one letter of complaint often from their customers. It rarely starts with the CEO. It rarely starts with the chair. It rarely starts with the board. It starts with one, or it starts with a few. And I just can't, and I think our regulatory change that we've seen in terms of bans on single-use plastic bags, phase-outs of other problematic single-use plastic items, container deposit schemes, which are really important pieces of legislation. I can't wait for you to have that scheme in Victoria. It's fantastic. Ministers are making these decisions because the public is demanding it, because people in the community have been changing because of RGAs, and local independent grocers are changing because people are writing petitions, making boomerang bags. Councils are trying, and often unsuccessfully, trying to ban the bags. It's that small change that happens over the years, happens when lots of people are trying to make change at the same time, is where we're seeing that, as Colin calls it, this groundswell of community change and behaviour change, which is the seed of changing our culture, which is the seed of systems change. And I really believe that. And I guess just one final thing that I'd like to say about Plastic Free July, and why I'm excited about the other speakers here tonight, is what I've also learned is not just small changes add up, but it's also we need to collaborate, and the more we work together, and that's something I love about Zero Waste Victoria and things like BYO containers. It's like when we work together and we share those stories and we share ideas and we share solutions, that's what really accelerates and amplifies change. And we know from our research that people care about plastic pollution. We also know from our research they don't want to know more, they don't want to be educated, they want to know what they can do and what other people like them are doing. So I love being a part of something like this where I get to learn as well, because then we can share that with Plastic Free July participants. And even though, you know, I'm on Wajak Noongar Budja in Western Australia, we have participants around the country and around the world who are like, oh yeah, we could get involved in that as well, or we're inspired to take this initiative to get rid of single-use plastics on our university campus. And we don't all need to reinvent the wheel all the time. So I talked for way longer then because I just get so excited. But I hope that kind of little snapshot of the way that I've seen change happen is really useful to give people a picture of why what they do matters, and how you can join us. Yeah.
Great. No, that's wonderful. That's great. I'm just conscious of time, and just for those who've joined us now, Rebecca can't stay for the full time. We've probably only got her for about 10 or 15 minutes more. So if you've got any questions or comments, pop them in the chat. But I guess I'm going to ask you a brief question before I hand it over to Bianca or Maddie. Is if people are doing Plastic Free July, and we're halfway through the month now, and maybe it's their first time they've done it, or maybe they've been doing it and they've been inspired for years and years, but they're challenged by people who won't join them on the challenge. Is there something you can give to them to ease them through that, or tell them it's okay?
So the challenge when you invite somebody else and they don't want to do it? Yeah,
say you've been doing well through July and you want to get a work colleague or your sister or someone on board, and they're just not playing the way you want them to play.
Yeah. Well, first of all, don't take it too badly. You know, and also don't underestimate. I really believe that actions speak louder than words, and we often see people, like sometimes people just need to watch you doing things for a while before they join in, and always keep it positive. Don't, and I'm sure no one on this call would do this, but, you know, just avoid that shaming and blaming and pitch it in a positive way. You know, we've got this plastic-free morning tea initiative, which we came up with, which was, again, an idea we recycled and borrowed from some of our participants. So it was a way of, rather than saying, come watch this documentary about the terrible things that plastic does to our wildlife, come and have a plastic-free morning tea and let's start a conversation. So yeah, find those easy ways to do it, and don't underestimate the power of your actions. We are going to have a special new initiative in the last week of July, the Up Cup Challenge. So challenging Australians to up their cup game and switch from single-use coffee cups to reuse. And yeah, invite somebody to do that just for one day. Say, hey, you know, I'm doing this. Can I get you a coffee? I brought in a spare mug. Or do you want to go? Let's have that catch up and we're going to sit down in a cafe. So yeah, look for the positive angle in.
Wonderful, thank you. All right, Bianca, if you've got any questions for Rebecca, you're welcome to ask them, but if not, that's okay. We'll just hear how BYOC got started.
Yeah, sure. First of all, I'd just like to take a quick moment to acknowledge the Indigenous custodians of the land where I am situated right now, the Bunurong people, and for all their knowledge and continued advocacy and protecting the land which we reside on. So yeah, I started BYO Containers. It's a bit of a unusual, I guess, meandering story. I think like most people in this space have come to zero waste. I started it in 2018, but before that I was working in a really high pressure role in pharma industry and was very, very good at saving pharma companies lots of money, and was finding myself just very burnt out and thinking, there must be something more. I also had a bit of a health scare, and I remember walking out of the hospital one day and I saw it was actually a Replas tree guard. And I thought, I'm going to contact these people and find out what they do. I know I need to change my path and I want to make some difference. So I started volunteering there, running educational tours, which I really love doing. In my past, I was once a teacher, and so it really lit a passion for me. And I researched heavily. I love to go down YouTube holes and really, really get into the nitty-gritty details, and I love science. So I learned a lot about plastics. And at that time, there was a lot of news about National Sword in program in China, which was banning imports of, difficult to recycle waste, especially plastics, a lot of mixed plastics which had been going to China for many, many years. And countries around the world were suddenly now going to have to deal with this very real problem of what are they going to do with their plastic waste. We've just been exporting it, and that was no longer going to be an option. So it got me really thinking, like, what can I do in this space? And I guess people really saw my passion, and I thought maybe I can do something. I started learning about zero waste. I too went to a MRF, material recovery facility, and saw what was done there, and was quite frustrated that a lot of things going into these facilities were still even going to landfill, even after sorting. Tetra Paks, for example, a lot of places were collecting them and they're not even recycling them because there's nowhere in Australia that actually can recycle them. So I stumbled across the Zero Waste Victoria Facebook page and started learning from them as well. And there was a conversation that started about, where can I go bring my containers to go shopping? Where can I go to the butcher? Where can I go to the deli? And I thought, it really shouldn't be that hard. Like, surely someone's got a website and we can just search it up and we can, find it. There wasn't a website for that. There's Trashless Takeaway, which I found subsequently. But I thought, in my experience in business practice, if you want to really tackle a problem, find out what the low-hanging fruit is. And this really looked to me like a low-hanging fruit where we could put not too much effort, get a website up and really just kind of list all the places that are happy to take people's containers so that people who want to shop that way can easily reduce their waste. So like I mentioned, I found Trashless Takeaway. We already had a website and we're looking at restaurants and takeaways and cafes. And I teamed up with them and put together the website, my first time ever putting together a website, but why not? Just give it a go. And I was really egged on and supported by all the people who were in the Facebook group, and I made a group, and it really overwhelmed me just how much support there was in the community. I was invited by Zero Waste Victoria to come and have a stand at a stall, and the amount of people that wanted to come and volunteer and just start having conversations with me on this stand just was really incredible. I think I probably had almost more volunteers than Zero Waste Victoria had for the event, and I was just like, how did that happen? And someone came and made a giant container cake, and we had it on. It was just such an amazing event to be part of, and see that small action where I said in a Facebook comment, yeah, let's do it, had just lit this spark, and so many people wanted to jump in and get involved and help make this happen. So that was my journey into creating the BYO Containers website, and we've now merged with Trashless Takeaway. So Kim and Nisa Maish, they put a lot of effort and have done a lot of work in this space, and I'm really grateful to have inherited some of that and continue to work with them. And we've relaunched our website and got new posters and new look this year, and we're taking it national as well. So gone from Victoria focus more on butchers and delis to covering all things. So even we have pet supplies, we have alcohol refills, beauty and personal products. So we're really trying to expand it and get people on the map and get people to help sign up more and more stores. One of the other reasons why I really wanted to do this initiative was I understood that a lot of people have anxiety about going to a store and asking, and I have it too. Even now, even after having so many conversations, I actually approached a new fishmonger today. And that first moment where you're like, oh, can I do this? Can I have this conversation? It went great, but you have that anxiety. So having a map where people know where containers are accepted, I think is really important to help normalize it and let people know that there's lots of other people doing it out here, that, you know, you're not alone. This is becoming more and more popular, and we'll see more and more of it. A couple other things I just wanted to mention. I know you had that question, Kirsty, about what do you do if, you know, someone looks at you and doesn't want to do it and thinks it's all silly, and just it was really a naysayer. I learned through looking at kind of psychology behind these kind of changes in patterns and starting habits. And my view on it, I always like to imagine everyone's in 4 quadrants, and you've got the 2 extremes, and you can only ever engage and convince someone who's on the quadrant next to you. So if you're on one far side and you speak to the people in the next quadrant over to you, you can bring them over. If you're in the middle, you can have the potential to convince those on either side of you, but you'll never reach the people on the further extreme. And if you're on the far extreme, you're never going to reach the other people on the other side of that extreme. And this, you know, it's not just about plastics and environmental issues. This covers across every issue. So I learned a long time ago to not waste my effort on anyone who's 2 quadrants away from me, and really focus it just on those who are on either side, and you know, hope to bring people closer towards my view and help them understand that, you know, it's perfectly normal and reasonable, and this is my reason why, and bring them along with me in that journey.
Great, thank you. I'm just seeing a comment come through. It's a little bit, I'm just going to read out. It's a little bit different to what you're talking about, but Helen would love to see a focus on reducing soft plastics, especially clear soft plastics, because of the threat to wildlife, and that's something we'd definitely like to see reduced. And part of the BYO campaign and also the Plastic Free July work is focusing on that, reducing plastics more and more all the time.
Yeah, we I do a bit of advocacy, and we sort of really think about it holistically. I know I've personally written submission into Vic government, and we've got our quote actually in the circular economy policy. So we really do see that circular solution. But I guess also too, it's good to pick a focus as well with limited resources. But yeah, definitely that's on my wish as well. If we can just reduce all plastics generally across the board, and I think always take that low-hanging fruit approach. If a plastic is easy to swap out, reduce, or avoid, that's where we should focus our efforts. Things that are really, really hard, like medical or research, they can come later. You know, when we get more, it becomes more common, we'll get more flexible options. We'll create more technologies. We'll create more alternatives, and it'll become more normalized. And then those harder things won't be as hard as they are today.
Great, very good, thank you. All right, I'm just going to, Rebecca, how are we for time? Can you sit through one more, or will we have to say goodbye to you about now?
Yeah, I've got about 5 minutes, a bit longer. Yeah,
lovely, okay. Well, we'll just pop Maddie on, and love to have you just at the end of that if we can, but we'll see how we go. Over to you, Maddie. Love to know what the uni's doing.
Cool. Hi everyone, my name is Maddie. Before I get started, I'd just like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which I am situated. So I'm in Melbourne at the moment, so Naarm, and I'd just like to pay my respects to the elders past and present. So I am both a student and a staff member at the University of Melbourne, so I'm lucky enough to see both sides. I'm doing a Masters of Environment there, and I work in the sustainability team. And the university has introduced some great new initiatives to help reduce our plastic waste. We conducted a waste audit in Parkville in 2019, I believe. So we got some great data from that and ideas of how we could reduce it. So we launched in 2019 our Choose to Reuse program, and basically it is a plate program for all our vendors at Parkville. So say you get your lunch, you can choose to have it on a reusable plate, which you return and it gets washed by our cleaners instead of using single-use takeaway items. And just in regards to your question, Kirsty, about how to get people involved in using those kinds of services, we actually have student volunteers who encourage other people to use the service and just like bring the program in a very positive light. It's a great opportunity for students to get involved in the initiative too, so it works really well. And so far, the Choose to Reuse program has diverted nearly 500,000 items from a landfill since it launched in 2019. We currently have it at our new student precinct, and all other takeaway items are either recyclable or compostable, which is fantastic. We also have Green Caffeine. Green Caffeine is not a program created by Melbourne Uni. It's actually a separate company. But basically, it is a library for kit cups. So say you forget your kit cup, but you still want to get a takeaway coffee, you can borrow a cup from that cafe. And so far we've got them across 13 of our cafes, I believe, only at Parkville campus. But it's really cool because when you go into the app and see where other cafes are, they're all across Australia. So if you get a coffee at Melbourne Uni, you can return your coffee at another cafe somewhere else. So yeah, it's good. And we have our reuse vending machine, which is really exciting. That launched last year. And instead of a vending machine full of chips and chocolates covered in plastic, it's actually filled with reusable items. So reusable straws, coffee cups, reusable cloth masks, all those kinds of things. We've got one at the moment at Parkville, but we're planning to bring more out, which is fantastic. And lastly, we have our furniture and equipment reuse service, which is for staff and students. And it's basically where you can donate equipment or furniture, so it stops it from going to landfill. And instead of buying new items for a classroom or an event, you can choose to get items from the reuse centre. So it saves a lot of landfill and it stops us from buying new items, which is fantastic. And I did forget, with the Choose to Reuse program, we actually allow a lot of our clubs and societies at Melbourne Uni to hire out those cups and plates and cutlery for their events. And we have our sustainable event guide, which talks about our Choose to Reuse program for events and how you can run events more sustainable and waste-free. So yeah, we've got some exciting things happening at Melbourne. So I'm very glad to be there, studying and working there. And these are things that we see them all the time, like the Choose to Reuse program. I recently went to, I think it was a Rising event with the Wilds, and they had that there, completely different name, but same thing. You use a reusable plate and cutlery, and there was minimal waste at the exhibition. It was fantastic. So yeah. Any questions on any of the items at Melbourne Uni?
I have a question, Kirsty. So I just love hearing both those stories. So Madeline, is there somewhere that you have shared these stories online that we can have a look at and then share?
Yeah, definitely. So you can follow us on Facebook or Instagram at Sustainable Campus. And we also have
Sustainable Campus.
Well, yeah, I can pop that. Actually, can I pop that in the chat or?
Yes, I think you can.
Yeah, awesome. I'll just grab that one up. Sorry, I should have had that ready to go beforehand.
That's okay. Yeah, no, I'm like Rebecca. When I hear these things, I want to know more. I want to selfishly read it for myself. And then after I selfishly read it for myself, then I'll share it with others.
Yeah, definitely. There's our website.
And I think it's really good. I'm trying to remember Bianca and I, did we do something at Monash together a few years ago? I'm sure it was a Monash campus.
Yeah, it was one of the halls of residents. We just did a talk to the residents there.
And they were wanting to do it. And this was back in, it probably would have been 2018, maybe 2019.
Just pre-COVID, I think.
Yeah, it was quite a while, and they were not quite sure what to do. So they hear that actually something was happening. You probably had the wheels in motion, and these students didn't know what was happening.
Yeah, we were lucky enough to have our program already planned and stuff before COVID, unfortunately, came along. But yeah, the Choose to Use. It's great because you can always purchase stuff from a Vinnies or Salvos and reuse those items and give them a new life. So it's fantastic. Easily implemented in a lot of places.
And I've just testing out my tech skills here. As you can see, I've got the banner come up now for that's the address. I've also popped it in the comments as well too. So that I'll just check that's worked. Yes, so I've got it, put it in the comments, and the banner's going up there for how you can be in touch or find out more about the sustainable campuses with the Uni of Melbourne.
This is a question for Madeline. Did you experience any resistance or issues with getting vendors on board and involved?
Yes, so that's actually not my job, it's Amelia's, but yes, we have had some issues with vendors not being super involved with them, especially food trucks at events. I had during a week at the start of the year, I had to go up to the food truck vendors and encourage them. But yeah, as you have all said, it's just about spinning it in a positive light, trying to make it sound how they can benefit. So I always use the line like, it saves you guys money on all that packaging. It's we'll clean it for you. You don't have to do any cleaning. So just promoting those benefits all the time. But most of the time, most people have been pretty good with getting on board with it, which has been great.
Yeah, you're right about flight. I find when I talk to businesses and mention it, if I sort of explain, we're here to support you. We're going to give you free advertising. I can bring you a free poster in. I think a lot of people do want to know how they can help environmental causes, but it just seems really hard and they're so busy, they've got so much on their minds, they have so many other priorities that they need to tend to. But once you let them know how easy it can be and that they're supported, they very easily can be won over.
Yeah, definitely. It's all about making it such an easy thing for them to adopt. Because they don't have time to tackle anything difficult. They've got, a business to run. So yeah, 100% you're right.
And I think it's great when it's it's easy for people. I know that for me it's funny. Like Rebecca tells a story about getting 2 straws. I've been there, and it's just like but I think that today people are actually more switched on. Like I think that I've been doing this. I was reducing plastics for quite some time before I heard of Plastic-Free July, and then I thought, that's a great idea, and I'll do a bit more in my July. But I just know that it's a case of when you've got sites like you bring your own containers, site. I remember when I first saw it, I thought, that's a great idea, but I probably won't use it. Now, not that it's not a great thing, it's just because I will just go in and expect that someone will use my container, and I'll expect that there. But if somebody's a little bit like, you know what, I want to do it, tell me where to do it, how to do it, and I'll get it done, then it just makes it easy. And I just like the way that the Uni of Melbourne has just made it the norm. Like when students come through, it's not like, do you want to? Give it a go. That's just what you've got to do. And so therefore to take that going through, and I see that happen in all sorts of places. Like sometimes you see it happen really well, in primary schools. A classic I see, they have the waste-free lunches or the nude food lunches, and then they go to high school, and often, not always, but often it stops. And I remember going to a particular high school, and I'd been to the biggest primary school feeder. And I looked around. I was actually, my son, he didn't go there, but it was one I looked at. And I was saying, well, it's really, really hard. And I'm thinking, how can it be hard? Like the primary school kids, they've just been trained to do it. And it's just that natural thing. So it's just normalizing it and making it part of every day. And if we were on here 5 years ago, the keep cups would have been like a really big deal. But now most people have a keep cup. And it's not about do they have a keep cup. It's about remembering to use it.
Yeah, you're right there. We just have done a survey on coffee habits, and there's a lot more coffee drinkers than I thought, but also 100% of people, this is a survey of 1,000 people, 100% of people who buy coffee from cafes own a reusable cup.
Wow, that's amazing. I didn't expect that.
That speaks volumes to people's intentions. That really does.
Yeah, that's a good point. I hadn't thought of it like that, Bianca.
I always think with habit changes, it's kind of I saw a behavioral study, and the graph was like, the first time you try to change that habit or install a new habit, it's so hard, and that hurdle to get over that participation of that habit is really high. The next time you do it, it goes down a little bit, and you might forget every second or third time, but if you just keep at it and keep at it and keep at it, eventually that barrier, that psychological barrier, it breaks down, it becomes the norm, and you don't have to think about it anymore. And when you don't have to think about it, you don't have to work for it, and there is really so much less of a hurdle. And the way I've sort of approached zero waste, I'm certainly not perfect by any means, but I think of one habit I'm going to change. So one of the habits I did early on is I make gluten-free bread. So gluten-free bread, for some reason, always came double wrapped, and I can never understand why it has to be double wrapped. But it was killing me. Why is it double wrapped? Anyway, we eat a lot of bread in the house. We need about 1 loaf a week. So I'll have a go, make the gluten-free bread, and it was so hard to get a recipe. It took me, trials and trials and trials, and then I eventually got it, and then I got a box, and I put all the ingredients in the box, and now it takes me 15 minutes once a week, and my bread's done, and I can do it in my sleep. But when that became a habit, then I moved on to my next thing. What can I do now to reduce my plastic? And just those little steps along the way, not doing it all at once, just one thing at a time, just picking them off. Now it's easy, I'll pick the next thing. That's been really helpful for me in that mindset to create habits. And I think for a lot of people, if you try to tell them, oh, you've got to be zero waste everything, right? We all have to do it now. It's just so too much. So just starting with choosing one thing, I think, is a really good lesson.
Yeah. Hey, Kirsty, I'm going to have to jump off. Sorry, I've got a child I've got to go pick up. But thank you so much for having me. I really enjoyed the conversation and checking out everyone's sites and sharing more.
Excellent. And the initiative you spoke of, if you can just email through or get someone to email through the details, because I'd like to find out about that and be able to share it as well too.
We'll definitely do that.
All right. Thanks for the catch up.
See you. Bye.
Lovely to meet you, Rebecca.
Sorry, I just saw Kathy's comment as well. I'm not sure of the organisation where we order our reusable plates, but I can find that out for you and pass on those details after this finishes. But yeah, as I said, another great option is always going to Salvos or Vinnie's and picking up secondhand plates and cutlery as well. Obviously, if you want branded things, that's another story. But yeah, I can definitely pass on that information for you because we do order ours in for events, and we have a plastic option and a crockery option as well.
So you have a plastic option and a crockery option?
Yeah, a reusable plastic plate. So I think it's to do with events, just to stop them from breaking and being so delicate, because they've got to be transported from, a variety of different groups. So it just keeps it a little bit easier and lighter as well.
That makes sense.
Yeah, because they're reused over and over again. Yeah.
Yeah, I was doing something a while ago. We were doing it was a cooking. It was sort of sustainable cooking, and everyone was kind of all under control. And And then we're like, hang on a minute, I don't want to use disposables. So I ended up going to Vinnie's and buying all these forks so we could just use them for tasting and then watch them. And now I've got a big shoebox of forks and other cutlery as well too. But it's just those little things. It doesn't take up much space. And now if someone says I'm having a party, I'm like, well, I've got all this cutlery, and it's just really easy to do. So it depends on the scale. I mean, a uni might like to have things a bit more uniform, or a large institution, not just a uni. But for sort of a smaller place, it didn't really matter, like a workplace or something like that, maybe even a school. If it doesn't matter, then just get whatever you get.
Yeah, definitely, 100%.
I know there's a lot of local party networks. So in local areas, you can search them on Facebook. I think there's a website as well where usually in each local area, there's somebody who holds a party kit or multiple party kits that you just sort of loan out and has everything ready to go.
Oh, that's fantastic. I have to get for my next party. It's amazing all the initiatives that crop up now, like with all these party kits and reusable apps and meetups and everything. It's fantastic. It's good to see.
Yeah, I think it's definitely having a snowball effect. People start doing something and it's like, well, what about? And the thing with a party's a real classic idea in the sense that to have that for a party is all good and well, but how often do you have a party? Now, maybe some people might have them a lot, but when your kids get to a certain age, your lifestyle changes a bit, and parties are a big deal. And, let's not talk about the last 2 years, but it's something that you might only use once or twice a year. So it can be like a lot of space to use up, but to have something to share. And the party kit's one way of doing it. Or sometimes there's some lucky locations have kitchen libraries, like Carlton has one, and Stonington has one as well too. Or there's also like we've got a really active Buy Nothing group, but it could be a good karma group. And people will put up, I'm having a party. I've actually seen them have a party and they've got decorations, and the decorations go from party to party to party, which especially for the young kids, even for the adults too, but the young kids seem to have more parties than adults, then why not?
You'd be surprised what you'd pick up off Marketplace as well. I saw someone had put together like a little Barbie, like a box. You go in and pose. So that came up and I was like, that's perfect for my daughter at the time. There's lots and lots of things that are on there for free. People want their things to get reused. It's amazing what you find out there. I've seen, I'm not sure if you've heard of Check Out My Shed as well. I haven't used it myself, but I know it's that same kind of concept, the sharing economy, where people sign up and I think you can, depending on the item, you can rent if it's like a large item or something like that, but certainly small items, just sharing them. It's really, really great initiative.
Yeah, excellent. Thanks, Helen, for putting the Party Kit Network address in there for us. That's much appreciated. Sorry, Maddie, I cut you off.
Oh, no, all good. I was just about to say it definitely saves space. Like, I'm a young person living in an apartment, so definitely don't have room for, all this various items and stuff. So it's great. It
certainly is. All right. Well, I think I'm mindful of time. I've got some really great insights tonight, and Helen's just come in that she loves these ideas because at home we've ditched the bin bags and instead lined the bin with our Who Gives a Crap paper wrappers, which most people know that's the toilet paper wrappers for those who don't know, and then clean the bin with needed. Also ditch the dishwashing cloths and cut up old T-shirts. And the dishwashing cloths is such a really, really important one. A lot of people don't realise. Those green scourers? Whenever you use them and they kind of thin away, that's like microplastics just going down the drain. So to be able to do away with those cloths and use like a cotton T-shirt, or you can actually get, if you want to buy one, you can get the coconut fibre scrubbers, which actually lasts a real long time. I've had mine going for over 18 months, and then my son took it to camp. It came back a bit different, but it's still okay. Or you can even crochet if you crochet or knit. I don't, but I know people who do, and they knit these dishcloths, which will last at least 6 months or even more if you wash them all the time. So that's a great tip there from Helen, which I've elaborated on. But also something else that Helen, a habit that informed, is taking their own metal spoons to use when getting gelato. That's a great idea too, because not all unis or all places have the spoons on hand. You can get little little kits. You can either make a kit or get a kit. I just take one with me, so I've got my spoon and fork and knife. Nothing worse. I was once caught out where I actually I forgot my lunch, and I thought I'll sit down, and they gave me my plate, and then I had plastic cutlery, and I'm like, if you carry it with you, that's a great idea. Thanks for sharing, Helen.
Sometimes I find as well, if you just ask if they've got metal cutlery or do they have a plate to sit in, sometimes they do. They might not put it up front, and things like sushi and stuff with the little sauces. Often there's a bottle of soy sauce behind the counter. It just might not be on display. I've taken to the habit of asking for the bottle and then leaving it prominently on the counter.
Fair enough. All right. Well, on a finishing note, Bianca and Maddie, if there's just one tip that people can go, like if they've got, because you two have both been, Bianca's set up an initiative with the BYOC and Maddie's been involved in an initiative. If people are thinking, you know what, I've got some great ideas, maybe they're to do similar things or maybe something different, and they were thinking, should I get started? How do I get started? Of course, it's a very general question because it could be any idea. But I know that human beings have ideas all the time, but sometimes actioning them can be the challenge. Have you got just a word of advice that we could offer somebody in that position?
Yeah, okay. Yeah. But for me, it's like that, just why not be you? Why not you just start it, right? We all sit back and think, oh, I'm not, I'm maybe not experienced enough, maybe I'm not good enough, or maybe I don't have time. But if you just start something, honestly, everything else just snowballs and you'll be surprised. And the other thing I would say too is everyone in this space is amazing to network and collaborate with. So if you've got a question, even if it's not about a particular campaign or initiative, I have no doubt that my inbox is always open to chat about these things. I've no doubt Kirsty is as well, and I'm sure there are many other change makers. I've actually cold contacted a few along my way. That's what I did with Trashless Takeaway, and you'd be surprised at how warmly it will be received when you try to network as well.
It's a great piece of advice.
Just adding on to that. If you're at uni, approach like your sustainability team or your sustainability members, councils as well. I've got a friend who started up their own charity revegetating urban parklands for native species. So yeah, if you've got an idea, like as you said, Bianca, collaboration is great, and you can find those people that can help fill those skills gaps that you might not have. So definitely seek out who can help you. Use LinkedIn as well. Definitely use LinkedIn.
Yeah, and I'm just about to put into the chat the Zero Waste Victoria Facebook group, so you can always pop in there and ask any questions. I pop in there from time to time, but there might be other people who aren't, just members of the group who've got something to offer as well too. I might also pop in the link for the Bring Your Own Containers Facebook group as well. BYOC, isn't it? I keep typing in. Here we go. Group and page, they look quite similar. All right. Well, I'm going to say thank you, everyone. Is that the right link? Yep. As we just wrap up here, that's for the Bring Your Own Containers. As I click in there, it just goes into comments into the Facebook groups as well. So I'm going to thank you again, Bianca, and thank you again, Maddie. It's been a great chat. If anyone's got any questions, you can contact us through the means that I've put in there. And I hope to chat with you both again sometime soon.
Thanks very much, Kirsty, and lovely to meet you, Maddie.
Lovely to meet you both. Have a good night.